3 weeks ago, I launched my cold email agency, and since then, I've sent around 18,000 emails across 3 different campaigns, testing 3 different niches. The 18,000 emails have roughly got me around 18 positive replies that have converted to around 6 conversations. I've had 4 actual sales calls from them and still no close. And so in today's video, I want to walk through number one, what my expectations were over the first few weeks, what reality has looked like, where the mismatch has been, and what changes I need to make moving forward to be able to actually get revenue in the door. So firstly, very high level, right, in terms of what's actually happened so far, to begin with, sent around 18,000 emails, 153 replies. So this is actually an overall, and by the way, let me define what replies looks like. So it's not including out of office. Anyone who says either I'm interested, I'm not interested, F off, contact X person, I don't work at this company. All those replies are kind of considered. Just the ones that are out of office aren't. Now, typically we want a 1% reply rate, and I assume that's actually excluding out of office. We're at 0.85% just from the division over here. Now, a lot of times when we are lower than the 1%, what the factors could be is either number one, deliverability, meaning your infrastructure, your actual domains, your inboxes, etc., or number two, the actual list that you're sending it to. And later in today's call, when I talk a bit more about the list, I think it's actually the latter point, which is really hurting the overall reply rate. And I think that's probably where the main issue is. Regardless, out of the 153 replies, 18 positive replies. So that is a relatively strong sign. Typically you want to be looking at getting around a sales call booked for every 5,000 emails sent. And so when we're sitting at 18,000 and we've had, 6 conversations, 4 calls booked, that really comes down to, so once you are getting those positive replies, they are converting into calls, which I suspect, because of my sales ability and me just selling for the past 3 years over here in B2C, B2B, different ecosystems, full stack, etc. It means maybe more top of funnel. Let's kind of focus on that. But that's just overall being the overview. Now, in terms of more specifically, 3 different campaigns, and I think this particular image does a great job at illustrating where the juice actually is. Because for similar effort, obviously, yes, campaign 2, which is broad B2B services, I haven't sent as many emails as something like commercial janitorial. Campaign 3 with agencies, this is a new one that I just started a couple of days ago. I'm not going to consider it too much for today's video. Just really when I compare this first one, which is commercial janitorial, compared to something a lot more broader like B2B services, which by the way tend to be pitched a lot more on a service like cold email, there's such a huge discrepancy between actual overall reply rates. I mean, we're looking at more than 2% over here. We're looking at just over 1 over here, and then in terms of positive reply rate, substantially more. And so that's the main thing that I'm considering moving into my next list after this, making it very specific, which is why I've gone agencies, and I'm going to talk about campaign 4 towards the end as well. So learning number 1 has been, the more refined the actual list can be, the better, surprise, surprise, right? The better the outcomes in terms of the more the copy is actually going to resonate with said avatar. Cool, moving on. So I kind of walked through a bit of the pipeline, but this is, I guess, a bit more visual. 18,000 emails, 153 replies, 18 positive, 6 conversations, 4 sales calls. So my main focus in terms of just overall constraints right now is just making sure I've got eyes on overall infrastructure and deliverability, but really the lead list. Because if we can get this up, assuming this all remains the same, we're going to be having more sales calls and then more revenue, right? With more closed deals, or at least that first closed deal to come a lot more sooner. And now I want to kind of segue a bit into the first sales call. And although the sales call isn't, I would say, the necessarily constraint, why, based on what I heard on the first sales call, I've had 4, and just transparency around the 4, 3 of them kind of follow the same vibe as the first one. The most recent one we had yesterday, it's a follow-up. They're getting back to me today. They're saying they're wanting to move forward, so fingers crossed, let's kind of see what happens over there. But the first 3 really followed the vibe of the first one. Or I guess the second 2 The second and the third followed the vibe of the first one. And I think what I kind of unanimously saw across those three calls really speaks to the actual list issue. So it was a cleaning company out of Indianapolis. They replied positively. The interest was there, but there was so little in revenue. Like, the person only had one client. And when I was having the sales call and just asking simple diagnostic questions like, how many walkthroughs or how many sales calls do you need to book one client? Or how much is a client even worth to you? They weren't able to articulate these answers. I mean, matter of fact, I'm not even be able to do that either because I'm so new to the business, right? My revenue is so little right now. And so the exact same reason why I can't articulate those numbers is why they can't themselves as well. And so as a result, they were just so pre-revenue. Now, mind you, my offer by nature is performance-based. You're not like fronting $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 in ad spend every single month. So more than it being like a logistical cash flow issue, you don't have the money, it's more of the mindset around being so little in revenue. He was so fearful of even moving forward. There was a bit of trust. And I think we can have a bit more of focus around trust. But when I really look at it, I think if I just naturally focus on businesses and speaking with owners that are a bit more established in terms of revenue, number one, cash flow wise, they actually have more money to spend. Number two, mindset wise, they're able to evaluate risk more. This is already such a low risk investment. Being performance-based marketing, they'll be more likely to execute on call and take decision to move forward. And then number three, there is going to be a bit more focus on kind of pre-call, building more trust, which is surprise, right? Why this video is here and why I'm putting a more active effort just to long form YouTube over here. But that's kind of the main thing. So if we're looking at really targeting, cool, what are those businesses where owners are a bit more established? When we speak tactically of what that looks like, it means when we're going into those lead lists, we're looking at companies that are at least 50 employees more, right? 50 to 200. We're looking at bigger companies. And so when I'm looking at building those lists, that's naturally who I've been targeting as well. Which leads me to the, I guess I just touched on this right now, right? Because with the particular sales call that I had, really with two of them, I guess one of them, he was like ready to move forward. He was just so new in revenue, and it was just so much fear looping. It was almost like a B2C call, and not exactly the same with the other two in the sense that they were a bit more reserved. They had a couple more objections, but unanimously, I feel like if I was just speaking with a more qualified prospect in terms of just the way they think it would help. Now, can I do more on the sales call? Sure. Can I also do a lot more before the sales call, such as pre-call assets? Sure. And I'm going to be focusing on those, but I think the biggest leverage thing that I can do is just really top of funnel. Who am I targeting to even put into my funnel in the first place? And so that's really the list problem that I'm going to be focusing on solving. That's the main constraint, followed by pre-call assets, things like this. And then number three, it would actually be getting better on the sales call specifically. So that's a bit about the fix as well, right? So really tightening the lead scoring. What else did I mention over here? Yep, so making sure more qualified, that the copy is actually good. The list is actually pulling, yep, okay. And then I went through in terms of the fix as well. And so really the plan from here is gonna be number one with my next one, which is specifically, I'm doing insurance broker, that kind of niche. I'm targeting between 50 to 200, employees. We're looking at quite a substantial size. We're right now at around 1,000 emails a day. We're going to be upping that to 2,000. So that's just going to naturally increase the throughput. And so that way, by the end of next week, I can update you with that substantial increase in doubling volume of emails, along with the more specific targeting when it comes to the lead list and kind of incorporating a bit more of these kind of pre-call assets, how that actually influences how people show up to those sales calls. And then ultimately, how much that actually helps in increasing the number of closes we get next week, and then revenue. So stay tuned, subscribe, and I'm going to post an update a week from now. Signing out.